Well, with us right now from Third Mutual is Bert Baum, who is their board secretary. Good to see you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Happy day before 4th.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing. You know, there's supposed to be record travel this weekend, or this holiday, and I hope that people out there will be really careful.
Yeah, definitely.
Take your time and get there safely.
Yes, definitely. And of course, we have the event here, so they don't need to go anywhere, right?
That's right. You could
There
just
you
watch
go.
the fireworks. I think someone's going to come on and talk about that, right?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Now, you brought along some topics for us, which I appreciate. And of course, solar is something that is always in the news. We've been talking about this for a long time, and we're getting there, right?
Well, we know not only getting there, we got there.
All right.
So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. We are really happy, and this happened really Friday.
Yeah, because I remembered that there was kind of a
Okay.
hang up there, yeah.
And Bill Walsh, who's really headed up the program, sent us an email and pointed out that they've now successfully submitted the paperwork to SCE.
Mm-hmm.
And we've qualified the last 3 buildings in our solar project for SCE, that's the utility, Southern
Right.
California Edison, net metering, aggregation version, NEMA 1 program. Well, what does this mean? It means that Edison will pay or credit Third Mutual for every kilowatt of electricity that our solar project produces at the same rate they charge for a kilowatt of electricity consumed from the SCE
That's
grid.
great, yeah.
Okay, so right now that's about 17 cents a kilowatt. If the cost of kilowatt electricity purchased from SCE goes up, the price that SCE pays us for the electricity that our solar panels produce will go up by the same amount. And the program will last for 20 years, which is really what got us involved in this. And this is great news, and all we need now is permission to operate on these last 3 buildings. And the project will be complete. Now, right now, our budget for electricity for Third is $471,000. So this can mean some significant savings to us, okay? And I mentioned Bill Walsh. I want to say that Bert Moldow was the first one. He's really Mr. Solar. He got us on the road.
Yeah, he did.
And
Quite a
Bill,
long time ago.
Right. This has been going on for a few years now.
Yeah.
And Bill Walsh got us to the promised land, okay? And Mark Stahl, who came on as part of our staff when we really picked a contractor. He's the one who helped us select it, and he's been very instrumental. So those are the 3 key players, but of course the whole board has been involved. Wei Ming Tao, who was our treasurer, really looked at the finances, and of course this was all shepherded by our president, Rosemarie DiLorenzo, and Ernesto Munoz, who's the head of M&C, played a significant role too. So they all deserve credit. I told Bert and Bill that I'm going to introduce a motion that their salaries be doubled. And before you start writing in letters, I have to point out we're all volunteers, and our salary, annual salary is exactly 0.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's move on to a couple things that I know, especially in the last couple of meetings, Third has talked about. The common area use in alterations.
Okay.
Right?
We just passed that now.
Yeah.
And people want to know, well, what does that mean? Well, I've asked our lawyer to put together a statement because we want to get this right, and I'd like to read it.
Sure.
Okay. The board of directors of Third Laguna Hills Mutual has recently been working with the association's legal counsel and addressing specific laws that affect the granting of portions of the association's common areas to individual owners for their exclusive use. As it turns out, there are many legal issues that arise when considering such potential grants of common area in response to owner requests for manor unit alterations. Considerations of the request must include not only an evaluation of the effect on the association's policies and procedures, but also compliance with various laws. Given the board's discussion with legal counsel, the board has adopted a new policy by resolution to help ensure there are no inadvertent violations of such restrictions by the association on a going forward basis. Under provisions of the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Act, there are limits placed on the ability of Board of Directors of Homeowners Association to grant to any individual owners the exclusive use of a portion of the association's common area. This law, found in Section 4600 of the California Civil Code, requires that, except in certain limited circumstances, 2/3 of the members of any particular mutual must vote to approve any grant of exclusive use of any portion of that common area to a particular owner. The idea is that the common area is owned by all the members, and that granting the use to any one particular owner may not be fair to other members without their consent, unless there are circumstances that would make such grant reasonable, for example, to accommodate a disability. Given this information, the board has modified association's procedures regarding the approval of alterations by individual owners to their manor and the surrounding areas to ensure that any such alterations do not result in any grant of exclusive use of common area without consulting, without the proper statutory authority or member approval as may be applicable. After consulting with legal counsel and reviewing past procedures, the board has also determined that to investigate all past alterations by members of the community or to perform inspections to determine possible variation of these provisions would be overly burdensome in both time and resources to the association and not in the best interest of the community as a whole. As such, the board will not be performing any inspections of past alterations or otherwise interfering with previously approved and completed alterations by owner. Instead, the board has simply resolved to ensure that potential future violations be avoided through the updated policy. I know that's a lot, but I think it really lays it out.
Okay, very good. And I know going forward, I'm sure this will be looked at now and then. There'll be people that are coming forward saying we want to do this and that.
Yes, and we understand that, but we want to do things legally.
Yes.
And fairly to the whole community.
All right, speaking of legally and fairly, the leasing policy, right? That's another
okay, we just passed the leasing
another topic
policy.
That's been talked about.
Right, and I've talked about it on this show.
Yeah.
We just passed it now. It's past the 30-day holding period. It's going to be effective July 1st. And there's been a misunderstanding. People have come before the board. I'd just like to run down some of the things that are really important in this policy. When you rent a manor, you have to follow certain procedures.
Right.
You have to submit an application, and as part of that application, we ask that the lessee has an ID. You can require that he submit a credit report and a criminal background check. This is not as onerous as you might think. You can go online and get these, and our office can help you do that. And what happens, the landlord or the lessor then has to give up his manor. Essentially, he moves out of the community, unless he has another unit to live in, and gives that privilege to the lessee, who gets his essentially ID card because the owner has to surrender that. Now, what we've had going on is that people have rented out rooms in their manor, and that's strictly prohibited. You have to rent out your whole manor. Also, if you're a lessee, the lessee cannot rent out rooms.
Right, exactly.
So we want to really end that. And this is not a new, really, regulation. This is part of the old regulation. What we've just done is formalized it, made it more uniform, and we hope more understandable. There's a confusion between a lessee and a co-occupant. We had a woman came before the board saying she's had this woman who's lived with her for years, and this woman will be forced to leave, and it seemed very strange to us about this arrangement. And we told her to speak to Pamela Bashline, who is the head of our leasing, and it turns out the woman who was living with her was not a lessee. She was a co-occupant. She already had the proper status. A co-occupant is someone who, if they meet the age requirement, can live with you if you fill out the proper forms, and they're approved by the board. And this co-occupant can be a friend, it can be a significant other, it can be a spouse, and we recognize that. But what we don't want you to do is have a new co-occupant every month.
Right, exactly. All right, good points.
So if you have any questions, please speak to our leasing office, and they can help you on this. And the other part about this that we want to emphasize is we do not allow short-term rentals. This is not a beach resort. And people have been doing this, and we are citing them, and they're subject to fine. You cannot advertise in VRBO. You cannot bring these people in as guests. They're not guests. And you're allowed to rent your unit for a minimum of 60 days a year. But you have to submit the proper forms to do that.
All right,
Okay.
Very good. Yeah, and again, that was a big topic at the meeting, and you folks clarified that as you did now. Now, some other motions that were improved: use of vinyl in gates and fences. Obviously, vinyl fences.
Okay. Well, these are the original policy covered wrought iron fences and wrought iron gates. Well, it's much more inexpensive in the long run to use vinyl,
Yes,
and there is a whole trend towards vinyl. You have more problems with the wrought iron. They're more difficult to paint. The upkeep is more. Vinyl will last forever. So we've put that in as an option, and we are doing that in certain areas in the community.
Okay. So as far as these go, will these be, you're talking about community gates and fences, or people who make alterations around their manor?
No, this would be the communication.
Okay,
This is
the
what
community.
we would do, but also in alterations, we would encourage that.
Okay, and they look great. They
Yeah.
really do. There's
Yeah.
all different styles available.
Right.
As you said, they last and last and last.
And it takes a long time to paint these.
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
becomes very tedious. So
Yes.
if you have a vinyl, you've taken care of that problem.
Carport use.
Okay. People have asked us about that. It turns out we found out that Third has 14 carports in the community, and these have been rented out unbeknownst to most people. And the fee was last set in 1997, and it was $240. Well, we raised that to $480, and we've instituted a wait list. If you were interested in renting a carport, you can get on that list.
Okay.
And we're limiting to only one carport for a resident.
Okay, so again, these are mutual carports.
Right.
All
And
right.
we only have 14. Third mutual.
Right, exactly. And moisture intrusion.
Okay, this has been another issue that has come up. People have come before the board saying we had damage, say, to our roof, moisture intrusion. It created havoc. We had to have it altered, and
Right.
Mutual will pay for the alterations. But then when it came to painting, the Mutual was telling them, we're not responsible. And they thought this was unfair, and we agreed. So we put in a new policy where we will now pay for the painting if, in fact, the damage was caused
Okay.
by third's negligence. The resident has to supply the paint. There are too many different shades
Yeah.
and all like that.
Okay, very good.
Okay,
Now,
so
the
that-
drone policy, something obviously United and GRF have been talking about, and so
Right.
they all came together. So
Right.
tell us about that.
Okay, actually, and we talked about
Yeah, we
this
did.
on the show. And you made a good point when we first discussed it. Third started to have questions about the policy that was originally written. The concern was we didn't want residents and we didn't want grandkids and coming in here flying drones. We were concerned about safety, et cetera. So we tabled it, and it was sent back to GRF and to the original security committee, and they modified it too. So now we have a policy where essentially security
Right.
has to okay
Exactly.
it, and they have, you can have a staff person who's qualified to use it, but it's not going to be in here for amusement, and we feel that's safe and that's a good resolution.
Okay, very good. So you're not going to get out your drone and fly it
No,
around.
no, I won't be able to bring in a drone, but there are a lot of areas outside.
Okay.
You know, you can try.
There you go. Finance update, and of course
Okay.
we are. You're going to give us a brief little rundown of that. Of course,
Yes.
The budgets are ongoing.
Yeah,
here.
we're in the process of developing a budget for 2018. We still are not sure what the assessments are going to look like, but last year we had a surplus of about $400,000, and the way we decided to give it back to the community is to put it in our reserve funds, and that's very important. We have a community that's 50 years old.
Yeah.
People realize that. We have a lot of ongoing infrastructure projects, and we need that reserve fund to do it. So that $400 was put into that, to our contingency reserve fund. Now, right now, we have a $200 million surplus, $2.8 million surplus as of, I guess, the end of April. But that's just a provisional figure. There's a lag in paying reserve expenditures for various outside services. So that's going to eat up most of that money. But we're still ahead of the curve, and we're doing pretty well. And one way to look at it, too, to show what a desirable community this is to look at our resales. Even though the total number of resales is flat, it turns out there are very few matters that are available if you speak to realtors,
Right.
okay? But our total dollar sales volume continues to go up, and the average sales price per manor continues to go up. They're both over a 10% increase over the following months. So we're doing very well.
Yes, you are.
So people out there from that aspect can relax. And don't worry about alterations. We will work it out. We're trying to be fair and consistent.
All right, very good. Thank you for coming on. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it today.
Nice to be here. Nice to sit on this comfortable couch.
Yeah, that's great. And have a good day tomorrow. Have a
You
good
too.
4th.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Take care. Always good to see you.
Right.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.